Eckhart!
How are you? Thanks for having me. Thank you. Nice audience. Hello.
What a good time it must be these days, isn't it?
It is nice, beautiful. It's a busy time for me right now. We've been going around the world promoting the movie for about 3 weeks.
It's a conscious choice to play this character in a film like this.
I'm always looking for something that's challenging as an actor, both physically, you know, and mentally, and you know, I feel first and foremost I'm an actor. So people say, why would you be in this movie or that movie? And it doesn't really matter to me what genre movie I'm in.
Do you get the sense when they're asking that question that there's sort of a guarded elitism, and they're like, "Why would you be in a?"
Yeah, but I've learned to deal with that as well. I mean, in this movie, what attracted me was the human element, which always attracts me. This a man who was cast out by his father, rejected. You know, he's rejected by his father and cast out. He was called an abortion, an aberration. He was called a monster and basically thrown out of the house and had to fend for himself. And I relate to that. You know, I'm sort of a survivalist myself, I feel like, in my career and in my life. And so I wanted to bring that to screen for young people who are going to see this movie. Right.
Okay, I want to get to that life part in a second, but what I loved about what you guys did with this version is, first of all, Frankenstein isn't the monster. As if we all grew up watching Hollywood or watching any films, we think of Frankenstein as this kind of dumb, lumbering monster that strolls around. But the original Frankenstein creation, first of all, you give him a name, which is great. It's Adam, but also he's a quick learner. He's sensitive. He wants to be better. He's looking for that soul that he doesn't have.
Yeah.
If that's all people pick up from it, then you have said something.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And if we get young people who've never heard of Frankenstein or the story of Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, if they'll go back and investigate that, then the movie's already done something good. Besides wildly entertain people, it's got stick fighting in it, it's got gargoyles and demons. But for me as an actor, what do I grab onto? You know, what's going to be fun for me? I like fighting, I like running around and grunting and all that sort of stuff. But I prefer that, actually, I will say.
It's easier.
I was just saying to somebody that, you know, early on in my career, I said so many words. You know, I would look at the script and there would be monologue after monologue after monologue, and I came to a point in my career, I said, why do I have to say so much? You know, why can't I? My dream fantasy was to be on the top of a train running and grunting and shooting at somebody. Yeah. In fact, I'll tell you a story about that. I was up for a very big movie. It was, you know, with just the best people in town. And
you're too young to be in the Expendables.
No. Well, no, don't say that. Don't say that, because that might be my next movie. I'm just the right age for that.
You are, too. Were you young when you read it? When did you first read Mary Shelley?
Well, I think I was a school kid. Yeah, but then I was 45 when I read it, or 44 when I read it the last time.
Right.
Yeah.
So you said that you could relate to that on
100%.
On a serious level.
Oh, yeah. I mean, on a really serious level in terms of when I was a kid. It's funny about Hollywood. Let me tell you something about Hollywood movie stars, okay? You know, I mean, I go to the store and nobody looks at me, nobody pays me any attention, but then if they know that you're in the movies, then everything changes. Right. In other words, there's nothing special inherently about me in terms of, you know, what they're doing is putting the lore on you once they know. So it's not about you. I learned that pretty quickly.
It's an important lesson to learn, too, right?
Yeah, otherwise, you know, it becomes a vanity thing and you become self-important and all that. So when anybody ever approaches me in that sense, I always look at it through the prism of you're appreciating Hollywood. You're not so much appreciating me, although we're having a good conversation. Yeah, and that's made my life easier.
Were you born in Cupertino? Is that true?
Yeah.
So you were born in Apple headquarters?
I was born when they were constructing a building, and then when the building was done, they put a symbol of an apple on it. And everybody in town was like, what, an apple? What is an apple? Why do you have an apple on your building? And I didn't invest because I thought there's no business that has an apple that's going to go anywhere.
Except for, of course, the Beatles.
That's true. Yeah, the Beatles, right? Yeah, of course. Well, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, man. And I was too young to invest in the Beatles.
But you did all right. You did all right.
I'm doing okay, but I imagine. No, yes, I'm Cupertino. My dad was in computers. He's a financial guy. So we were right in the hub of the whole thing.
You moved around a bunch, right?
Yeah, and then I came home from scout camp one day with my brother, and Dad said, family meeting in the living room, we're moving to England.
Right. And this is what, 81?
In 81.
So you go to 81, you're 13 years old, right?
Yeah.
And if you're already feeling a sense of abandonment and disconnect, different culture, the music that was coming out, the post-punk hangover, like all that was happening.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, let's start with California in terms of waves, girls, you know, Levi's, you know, I had beach blonde hair, you know, I was the quintessential California kid. My brother who was 5 years older than me, is a major surfer, hair down to here, and it killed me to leave him, you know, and to leave that lifestyle. And then we went to England, and it was hard, you know, and talk about issues with my parents. I was so terrible to my parents. There was so much anger. My brother and I, Louis tortured my mother, and she's a saint for taking it. But putting that in relation to this film, you know, it was that kind of thing where having severe anger and hatred for my parents for moving me away. And then all of a sudden, I was going into London and seeing bands at the Hammersmith Odeon and going to the pub at 13, and I thought...
You couldn't move to Quebec City, it would have been easier.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I thought, well, Mom, you know, things are okay, you know.
Let's stick around more there right after this. All right, coming up, I want to go way back to find out where Aaron learned all those badass martial arts skills. That's next. Thinking about Frankenstein and reading your story, that so much of this version in I, Frankenstein, religion plays a part of it, which was nice. And a guy who has your own complicated relationship with religion in your background, what was that like for you, just kind of exploring?
Well, you know...
When I say complicated Mormon, but you're not a practicing Mormon, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, but it's complicated because even the business I'm in, you know, I went to Brigham Young University, I went to film and school, I got a film and theater degree there. While I was there with Neil LaBute, we were doing plays, which later became In the Company of Men and Your Friends and Neighbors, that we would rehearse for 3 months, and we would get a call before, and they say they're locking the theater doors, they're taking away the light board, and they're not letting us in. So we would have to call everybody we knew and say, get to the theater at 8 o'clock in the morning. We would do one showing of the play. Basically at a stolen theater.
Because the school didn't approve?
Yeah, the school wouldn't approve. And
The Company of Men is one of the most misanthropic films I've ever seen. That's an epic.
Yeah.
You was a play worse? Is that what you're going to say?
There's a funny story about this. Maybe you can know it or not. But I was in New York, living in New York. I had no agent. I had no money. I was living in an apartment about this size. And I didn't know where my future was going. I had no jobs. And Neil called me up. He says, Aaron, 2 of my friends got in a car accident, and they're giving me half of the money. Do you want to make In the Company of Men? And I said, sure. So I was going to play my original part. And so I studied. I got off book, everything. He calls me up. He says, I can't get the other actor on the phone. I said, what do you mean? We're just about to go. And he said, yeah, I can't get him on the phone. And I said, well, you got to find another actor. He says, Aaron, I've tried. I can't find anybody. He says, will you play the other part? And I said, Neil, I can't play the other part. I mean, I can't do it. You know, I'm not, I can't do it. I hung up the phone. I looked around my apartment. I didn't have a pot to piss in, as they say. And I looked at
New York apartment.
Yeah. And I picked up the phone. I called Neil and I said, I'll do it. And that changed my life. Right. You know, I went from, that went to Cannes, it went to Sundance. It went from literally not being able to get a job to, I was in the optometrist's chair after that came out, getting my eyes checked, I guess. My cell phone rings, I pick it up, and it's Sean Penn. And he says, I just had a private viewing of your picture, and I want to meet you. I mean, that's how influential that movie was for me, and changed my life completely.
Just saying yes and pushing yourself, right?
Yeah, trying to trust myself. That's another issue in this film, in I, Frankenstein, is trusting the voice inside of you.
Right.
Now, back to the religion thing, is that, you know, I've never been asked back to BYU to give a seminar, to give a speech,
How do you
to
feel
talk.
about that?
I'm not happy with it, because I feel like I'm an accomplished professional. I feel like I can teach the students. I feel like I can offer them real life experience, and I would, you know, to my alma mater. You know, I understand why, because I've made films that I guess are against the principles. But you know, it would be nice to be asked back. Neil's never been asked back either.
Maybe they would ask you back if they saw this film from 1993.
If this is Samson and Delilah, okay.
I thought you'd be a much bigger man.
I love this.
But this helps, eh?
Oh, boy.
It has weight.
Is this going to end sometime soon? This
Sorely
slip?
dent.
End
No
this
spear
slip.
may pierce.
Cut.
You are an accomplished actor. You played Samson.
That was one of my first jobs ever.
You can see where I got, you know, this is where I,
Breaking the stick.
yeah, I mean, this is how I came to be Frankenstein,
Well,
you know.
but this is how we found
can
that.
see
So it was
the
like
power in
there was
that.
the stick play. I heard that you were doing a lot of that kind of martial art.
Yeah.
You were doing a South American martial arts. You're doing, and then it was like, has he ever done that before? Then saw that clip and went, yes, he has.
Yeah. No, I've been practicing for years. Wow. That's sobering, isn't it? But you know what's nice about that is that, you know, there's room to grow, and that I can still get better.
Look, sometimes we play clips. The artist in the chair or the craftsman in the chair gets.
The craftsman.
Well, because it's not because I think art is a good part of it, but it really is craft. What you do, right?
I don't call anybody an artist. I call myself a craftsman because.
Oh, you do call yourself. Yeah, that's what
100%.
this is. It's craft.
Yeah, I think when you call yourself an artist, you give yourself excuses to be lazy and not to do the work. A craftsman does the work.
Right.
A craftsman goes to work every day and he works it out. And in between scenes, he's working on what he can do. He builds something. I think an artist gives somebody permission to sort of, to behave badly.
Yeah.
You know, because a director will say, "Oh, that's just the way he is. He's an artist."
Yeah.
I don't accept that.
Well, did you
I'll tell you a
meet
story
him?
about Sean.
Wait. After the break, he's going to tell a story about Sean. More with Aaron Eckhart right after this.
All right, so what do you do when you get on a private plane with Jack Nicholson? Does it get strange? We'll find out.
All right, so back here with Aaron Eckhart. The Sean Penn story.
Well, I did a movie called The Pledge with Sean, Jack Nicholson, Sam Shepard, Mickey Rourke, Helen Mirren. I mean, just the dream cast. It's called The Pledge. And I had been preparing for the role, and there's a scene in it where I play Jack Nicholson's cop. I'm a cop, and we play partners, and he's sort of gotten on the booze and let himself go, and he's smoking cigarettes, and he wants to come and get my help for a case that he's doing now as a retired cop. And I'm a clean-cut guy and everything. I'm in the office, and he's come in asking, and he's smoking, and he's got a bottle in the back, and I was researching the scene and doing what I was telling you about, sort of thinking about it. What popped up in my mind was an orange. I got to have an orange in this scene. And I didn't question it. I taught myself not to question it. So when I got to, we filmed it in Canada, and I got to Sean, I said, "Sean, I don't know why I need an orange for this scene." And so Sean, to his credit, right off the bat, he goes, "Get oranges." So he had a bag of oranges for me, right? And there's Jack, and Jack's sitting there like this, and he's smoking a cigarette like this, looking like hell, right? Yeah. And the whole time I have this beautiful, fresh orange, and I'm peeling it, and he's asking for my help. And the whole time, and Jack didn't even know about this, right? And so I'm peeling this orange and eating these beautifully, these delicious, juicy things, and he's still like this. And finally, he's eliciting my help and everything. At the end, when I say no, Jack's ash is this long on a cigarette, and he's got nowhere to ash it, and disgustedly, I look at him, I hold out that beautiful orange peel, and he ashes in the orange peel like this, and I throw it in the garbage, and that was it.
That was the scene. Are you better at Jack impersonation or Sean?
Oh. Well, I mean, I'll tell you a story about Jack. It's a really fast story. When we were in Reno preparing for the movie, and so Sean stayed on in Reno to scout, and Jack and I flew back on a private plane together. And so here I am, one of my heroes, and I said, Jack, I said, 5 easy pieces: The Shining, Last Detail, Carnal Knowledge, King of Marvin Gardens. And, you know, he's sitting there, and we're in this private plane, it's humming and everything like this. And I'm like this young kid, and he looked at me and goes, like I've always said, kid, I don't make movies, I make classics.
Aaron Eckhart, I'm Frankenstein, open Friday.